and really just started to explore just like how could I bring my interests and my talents and skills into a career path that I could see myself really enjoying long term, which has been like coaching and still running and starting a podcast and starting a small business. I own my own coaching business too. And all the all the ins and outs and ups and downs of navigating entrepreneurship. So it's been quite a big shift in the last few years. It's also like, one of those shifts that you're when you're in it, you're just in it. And it's only when you stop and you have to, sort of talk about it like here, like right now that you realize that like, oh yeah, a lot has happened.
You are listening to the No Gimmicks, Just Sweat podcast with your host, Eric Logan. No Gimmicks, Just Sweat is dedicated to hearing the journeys and unique stories behind an athlete's training and what drives them. Get inspired to own your life and make the impossible possible. If you enjoy the show, please subscribe so that you never miss an episode. Also, please take a few seconds to rate the show and drop me a review. Now, let's get started with the show.
All right, welcome to another episode of No Gimmicks, Just Sweat. And again, we're welcoming back, way back from the first season, episode 4, Mireille Siné. Did I pronounce it right?
You
again?
got it.
I got it again. Okay. Whew, I was worried. I wanted to make sure I pronounced it right. So how are you doing?
I'm doing very well. Yeah, it's Friday. It is Friday. Yes, had to confirm for myself. So
Okay, that sounds like it's been a week if you got to confirm it's Friday.
yes. They're just flying by, to be honest. And we're already at the end of January, practically. And it's been a good month and a full month. And it's just a testament to like, time flies when you are just kind of keeping your head down, putting in the work.
I hear you. So I'm gonna ask you just like I did at that first episode that we did together. How's the weather over there?
Weather is pretty good today. I will say it's warmed up. We've had some rain in the past week, a little bit of some stormy type days, and then the cold that kind of follows that. But again, today we landed on a fairly well tempered day, and I think we're heading into a pretty decent weekend.
Okay, so you're saying cold. What do you come on now?
I mean, okay, there were some points where, it was 40 something in the morning, which is very cold for Los Angeles. Today it was like low 50s when I went out for a run. So that's still sort of like a long sleeve, maybe a vest situation for me. Nowhere near Midwest and East Coast, but it's a different kind of chilly for us.
Oh, okay. You can't see me now, but I'm doing a violin right now.
Ah.
I'm doing the violin right now. The fortunate thing about today, it was actually pretty warm, so I was able to get out this morning and do a run.
Mhm.
And after work, I was able to okay, let me hop on the bike and get a quick bike ride in before
Nice.
I start talking with you and stuff. I said, let me get a bike ride in.
Nice.
Because I know probably this is in Georgia, so next week it'll probably be freezing cold again.
Oh man. Yeah,
All
I
right.
don't know if that's where I'd want to live all the time.
All right, Mireille, let's catch up with you. What have you been up to? I follow you online, so I know what you've been up to. But the listeners might not know what you've been up to. So what have you been up to?
Been up to a lot. Like I said before we started recording, like this morning, I went back and I listened to the episode that we did, and it was just wow. So at that time, I was putting together like my final project for grad school. I ended up, of course, finishing grad school, and I have my master's in public health now.
Congratulations.
Thank you. I continue to work in the homeless services industry here in Los Angeles for a bit after I actually officially left in 2022. So maybe a year and some change after we last recorded. And that's about the time where I started to really look at doing like running full time, specifically with coaching. And really just started to explore just like how could I bring my interests and my talents and skills into a career path that I could see myself really enjoying long term, which has been like coaching and still running and starting a podcast and starting a small business. I own my own coaching business too. And all the all the ins and outs and ups and downs of navigating entrepreneurship. So it's been quite a big shift in the last few years. It's also like, one of those shifts that you're when you're in it, you're just in it. And it's only when you stop and you have to, sort of talk about it, like here, like right now, that you realize that, like, oh yeah, a lot has happened. Yeah.
Well, I think we all do that when we're passionate about something. We just
Hmm.
do, and we don't think like, oh wow, I've done a lot, or
Yeah.
there was a lot involved with this that I
Hmm.
did do.
Hmm.
And you don't realize that until you just stop for a moment, you pause and you look back at things.
Yeah.
So let's
That's
talk about the oh, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No,
You
I
were
was
going
gonna
to
say
say.
that's the truth.
But I want to kind of let's talk about the coaching. We see a lot of people go into coaching and they
Hmm.
start coaching, whether it's just general fitness coaching or if it's run coaching.
Hmm.
And I know what you have something very specific. You're an autoimmune and endurance run coach.
Hmm. Hmm.
So explain that to someone who might not understand what that is specifically.
Yes. So I have an autoimmune condition called lupus. It's a chronic condition. So I've had it for a decade now, actually, as of last year. So that's sort of me trying to be, maybe not the beacon, but like almost like a guide for other athletes and coaches who have a chronic autoimmune disorder like that and are trying to still live up to like their endurance goals and their endurance dreams. Sometimes you get a diagnosis like that and it can be really jarring, especially if you come from a very athletic or fitness background. A lot of the times you have to stop that level of activity in order to get well before you can continue. So after, living with it for a decade or so and still having done, the athletic achievements that I have from like, marathons and long distance relays and courses, it's like I really want to reach out to those who may not know how or if they can still continue like their athletic dreams post diagnosis. So that's what I mean by autoimmune coach and endurance coach too. I still really love the marathon, so I'm probably my happiest when I get to coach and train others for their first half or regular marathon, and really sort of like taking in those or to intermediate athletes who are looking for more than a training plan, because that's what coaching is for me. It's not just me giving you this list of things to do and the athlete going out and doing it. In my coaching practice, we really focus on our technique and our nutrition and our recovery and all these little details and stuff. So athlete education is very important to me. So I'm always trying to give them the best, and the best, and to perform your best. It's more than just running.
Okay. So, kind of expanding on that, how would you approach a client that has an autoimmune, issue? How would
Hmm.
you approach them and, either as they discover they have it and
Hmm.
they were already an athlete, or they're looking to do that? They're trying to say, I want to improve my health.
Hmm.
I was looking into running, and then I was diagnosed with this,
Hmm.
and I still want to try to run. So how
Yeah.
would you approach that?
We always start out with just having a chat. I think having been in their shoes, I want them to also feel like someone is seeing them and hearing them. That's not just telling them, like just not another doctor telling them what they can and can't do. I just want to make sure that they understand that I'm going to be someone that's going to be on their side, someone who's willing to listen, and someone who's really willing to collaborate with them, because I believe that they can do anything that they dream of too. It's just a matter of time and patience and putting in the work. So I always start with a conversation, really setting that baseline going, because everyone's story is going to be the same. Even though we may have similar diagnosis, doesn't mean we all took the same route to get there, or our experiences have been the same with our symptoms and stuff. So it's very important to get to know the individual before you start to figure out, like, okay, what does that training plan look like? are their current goals, realistic or achievable, or do we need to scale back, or are they ready to actually really jump in there and get back to like a competitive level of training and competing?
Okay. And with that, is there, like as far as like fueling and diet, is that pretty much, for a person with that particular disorder, is it that they can't, fuel and diet the same way as someone regular, or is it that, there's certain things they have to do?
That will depend on the specific diagnosis, and by the time that we are talking, I'm always going to ask that they have like a baseline level of awareness in their own condition, um, just so our relationship is just more fruitful. But when it comes to um, nutrition, as far as endurance, that's a pretty even playing field. We
Okay.
still want to be getting in our carbs and our protein and fueling in that way. The only thing that might change is like if their condition um, you know pertains with any allergies. Of course, we have to watch out for that. If they know of anything that would like actually upset them, maybe cause a flare up in the nutrition that we're suggesting. Of course, that's a reason to pull back. But I find that as far as general like athletic nutrition, the stuff you and I would do with our gels and whatnot, that's kind of an even playing field. So there's not a lot of change that needs to happen there, thankfully.
Okay. But are there any outside of the condition? Are there any other challenges that that you might face as a coach coaching someone?
Yeah, there's definitely some specific things that like on the surface level it could be just like any other athlete, but once that someone has that condition, that's kind of like the key that you have too. So some things I like to talk about is just like the prolonged recovery time that someone might need because of their
Oh
condition.
yeah. Okay.
Um the level of fatigue too is also something to watch out for, kind of just checking in daily, weekly, whatever the schedule is with like, how are you sleeping? Sleeping can be a real big issue with a lot of these conditions. Is the way you're feeling sort of like your normal level of fatigue, or do you feel like something we did in the past week has really triggered something, or it's taking you much longer to get over, that last long run session, things like that. The cycle and emotional aspect also is something to look out for. As athletes, sometimes we can be our hardest critics.
Yes. Yes.
Sometimes, yes, we go through all these mental constraints too. And I'd say the added strain with having an autoimmune condition is just like not only are you trying to handle the pressures of training if it feels like a pressure to you, but you're also like constantly wrestling with this condition. It's just like you're thinking, will this run be the run that maybe cause a flare up? Oh, I have so many doctor's appointments or so much medication that I need to just be on. Like, how is that going to hurt or help me as I'm training? So I find that checking in and checking base with just like, how are you doing mentally? How are you doing emotionally? Anyone that has experienced having to go to the doctor frequent times, whether it's been themselves or for a family member, it's like that, but but for the rest of your life. So if you can
Right.
just put yourself in the shoes of just the mental and emotional strain that it takes to have to do all that, and then plug it into someone's life that has to do that pretty much for the rest of their life. I think you kind of get an understanding of just how much more of a burden it can feel for an autoimmune athlete to go through that.
Okay. Hey, it sounds like a person will be in very good hands with you.
I hope so. Yes, yes, yes. I do my absolute best.
All right, so let's talk about the fun stuff. Let's talk about running and racing.
Yeah,
So, what exciting races have you done since we last talked? Because I think I saw you did Honolulu
I did.
at one point.
Yes.
Okay, that's been one of my kind of. I hate to say, I hate using the term bucket list because that sounds so like that's the
Find
end.
it. Yeah,
Yeah. So,
yeah.
but that's one of my dream events to
Mhm,
do is the Honolulu.
mhm,
That's one thing that I said that if I ever do my very first marathon, I would love for it to be the Honolulu Marathon.
mm,
So
mm.
because number one, I always want to go to Hawaii. That's
Yes.
the first thing. And the second, I think that just being able to experience running in that environment would just be great. So
Mm.
what was your experience there?
I loved it, and similar to what you just said, I also picked it because I've never been to any of the Hawaiian Islands. So I was like, this is a good excuse. I'll go there, run a marathon, and go on vacation.
Yeah, see, there you go. Two
um, so
birds with
it,
one stone.
yeah, it was beautiful. It was so beautiful, and the the atmosphere and the spirit of that marathon is it's not going to be like any other marathon you've probably experienced because they very much hone in on that aloha spirit. It's chill, it's welcoming. um a lot of people really like that there's no time limit, for this marathon too.
Right, right.
It's just go out there, have a good time. If you want to race it and try and get your PR, you can do that. If you want to take in the scenery, you can do that. That's what I did for most of it. It was just like constantly looking at the sunrise or the water or all of these people, and it was a jam packed race, but I never felt like clustered into it, and it was a really good tour of just that section of Honolulu too. So it's one I highly recommend, and it was just great.
See, this is a selling point for me. I was like, okay, so it's more of selling it. Okay, now I want to do it even more. All right. So, what other races have you had?
I did finally get to go and do Berlin. We talked about that
Oh,
the last
yes,
time
that's
too,
right.
with the
Yeah.
postponing and such. So I did Berlin in September of 2022. That was another. Anytime I have to travel far, I basically make a vacation out of the race. So that was another one where I was just like, yeah, I'll go and do the marathon, and then I'll just be in Berlin. So again, great time. Lucked out with the weather. It was just like it felt like a breath of fresh air really being in there, and just to see like the level of organization that goes into a world major marathon. That was my first world major marathon. It was just like, wow, they've got this down packed, and you're just having fun the whole time too. And same thing, you can go there and PR, you can go in and take in the sights because the architecture was also really, really beautiful.
Okay. Are you still trail running?
I am still trail running. Yes, yes. I do some local community stuff here in the summer with a trail group. But also I've just started sort of like incorporating it into my training. So one or two runs a week are trail runs for me. And then I'll pop into like that's a local race here and there too. But yeah, it's super fun. I definitely feel like my weekly runs aren't complete if I don't have a little bit of both road running and trail running. Yeah, still super fun for me.
Well, you're in LA, so there are very good kind of trails to run in LA,
Mhm,
right?
mhm.
So
Yes.
you're there, yes. And you probably don't. I was gonna say you probably don't have to worry about as much wildlife
Mm.
in the sense of, say, over here on the East Coast in Georgia.
Yes, yes. There's definitely areas where like, they're known for the trail runners and their hikers. And so you generally know those are gonna be really safe. You still shouldn't like go out there and pretend nature doesn't exist. I mean, there's still
Right,
animals
exactly.
and such. Um, but then there's definitely those areas where like, if I go camping and stuff, it's like I'm going there to camp. I'm not going there to run because I do not know what's out there. But yeah, we do have yeah, our mountain rangers are beautiful on the east side or the west side. You just kind of take your pick.
Oh yeah, I've seen the picture. So yes, yes. All right. Is there like a race that you haven't done yet that you're thinking about doing and would love to turn into a vacation?
Well, I got into Chicago this year, so that's the one I'm
Okay.
really, really excited about. Maybe make a vacation out of that, but just like I'm just so hyped for it to go and get a chance to do that. Um, let's see. I've been looking a lot at, again, like some overseas races too. So like
Okay.
Barcelona or Paris would be really wonderful. Madrid. Yeah, any place where I can go to any race I can go to a new place for the first time is pretty much on my list. Even if I get to go back to Berlin, that'd be awesome too.
Okay. So I mean, are any other like the world majors on that list?
Tokyo and London, of course. What else? Hopefully New York one day too. Uh, Depends on that lottery system. Just checking in
Hey,
one race at a time.
you gotta love the lottery system. Gotta love
Yeah.
it. All right. So I also saw that since we last spoke, you also started doing a podcast. So let's talk about that.
Yes. So my podcast, it's called Running in Public. Almost like a tongue-in-cheek sort of title. And I remember when I finally kind of settled on it, I was just like, this is great. This is going to be genius. At least with the title. But so as the title sort of suggests, it is like a running-based podcast. But unlike, the athlete interview style that we see a lot of, kind of wanted to flip the script and bring a new conversation to like the running podcast scene, and focus it on run clubs specifically. So I like to say that
Yes.
the podcast is like, it kind of talks about the intersection of how I feel run clubs are the new frontier for public health. So it's also like a nod back to my whole grad school degree too, and trying to look at running through if we're looking at running through the lens of public health, then for me, it's like focusing on the environments that we're in and the impact that we're having on our community and those around us. And I'm sort of looking for those run clubs that almost do more than just run, like they do like their weekly meetups and such, but on top of that, they're like doing community service. They are talking to their council members. They are supporting kids in schools and things like that. All of these things that I feel are going to have like much more lasting impacts on their neighborhoods and their environments and the people in the community in the future going forward. Then it's more than just the run with them too.
Okay. So let's see. Coach, you're still running. You got the podcast. Okay. What else is there? You're doing everything.
I'm doing quite a bit of things.
Which is good.
Yeah.
Staying busy, and sharing, how the wealth of knowledge that you have, as well as, kind of, and, you kind of look at it as a little bit of servitude that you're helping your community. You're helping other people. You're not just keeping it to yourself.
Yes. Yeah. I've definitely always been in some sort of position of service just because, that's just what feels right to me.
Right.
It's like, I love to learn and grow, and you only really solidify that by like turning around and helping the next person, that's the way I kind of see it. And if you can help, like, we have so much social media now where like you can post one video and have it reach like hundreds of people. And then that kind of just amplifies that servitude even more. I think I'd say the only other big changes has been like this turn into entrepreneurship, I would say, so like the process of like leaving that full-time job with the benefits and sort of scrambling a bit and figuring out what the next steps looks like too. I'd say if I could look back in the past couple of years too, those have been some really big like growth moments for me, going through maybe imposter syndrome and having to think about just things you wouldn't have thought of like in your full-time job, because like it's like, oh, what am I doing for healthcare? What am I doing for the bills and things like that? But coming into 2024, I'm definitely settling into the title of business owner, and so the coaching kind of falls into that. The podcast falls into that, and there's so many other things planned going forward into this year, as far as just like me teaching or putting out merchandising and things like that. So really, really growing that foundation with coaching in order to expand it into the larger like running industry world. But it's definitely for anyone that's like been through it or is thinking about doing it too. I mean, it's just, you almost have to know that it's what you want, because once you're in it, it's constant learning. You are just like, there's never a dull moment once you're in charge of everything yourself. And I really love that feeling because it keeps me creative. It keeps me energized throughout the day. And when I get to work on things that really make me happy and I feel they make other people happy and well, that's like the biggest reward for me. So yeah, diving into that all of 2024.
Okay. And so we should be surprised if we ever see a book come from you, right?
You definitely shouldn't. I already have a few ideas.
See, how did I know? How did I know?
It's all
Well,
gonna come.
I want to step back a little bit to something you said. You said that imposter syndrome.
Mhm,
We hear that a lot. And stepping out and becoming a coach and the entrepreneurship,
mhm,
that's something that really kind of hits hard. You get out there thinking that you can do it, but then when you kind of see how much work gets into it, or it might
mm,
not be going as fast as you're going,
mhm.
that's when that imposter syndrome hits. So how did you deal with that?
I think the smartest thing I did last year was I started looking for mentors, and I
Okay.
started looking for people that were almost in the same trajectory as me too. So mentors in the sense of like looking for someone that's been where I've been, and they're already well into their own coaching business and business journey in general. So someone that I could look up to and also ask questions for, like, for the phases that I'm in, and also really like give me those gut checks, right? Because it's exactly what you said. There's definitely been moments where I felt like, oh, I thought I'd be at this stage by now, but I'm still working on, this ground level, and having to be okay with that, and knowing that it's you're not doing anything wrong, that it's really just about the process, and it's going to take the time it takes. That's the one thing we
Right.
can't speed up. It is the time, but the one thing you do have control over, also like you said, is the work that you get to put in every day. So yeah, it's exactly like someone can be excited about this until they find out just how much work it is, and that can be a deterrent. Or you can be excited to get through the work and to look at everything as a learning opportunity, and which is sort of what I do. It's like this year, I've got to figure out what taxes look like as a business
Oh
owner. So
yeah. Yeah.
I'm looking. That's going to be a whole learning curve for me. But I'll do what I've been doing so far, which is recognizing that I don't need to know everything, because that's impossible. Someone out there has the knowledge, so why don't I just seek them out or look up a YouTube video for more info and sort of put the pieces together too. So it's been a lesson in like being okay with things happening on their own time, but definitely looking for mentors and looking for people in the same stage as you, whether that's a stage in business or stage in life. So for coaching too, it's like it's really nice if you can find the community of people that are going through similar experiences, so you can have someone to relate to. We have our friends and family, of course, that kind of see us, our ups and downs and the struggles of entrepreneurship, but there's never going to be anything like another coach that's going to know what it feels like to like fill up your athlete roster, or to finally get that course or class up and going too, because they also understand just how much behind the scenes stuff happens to make what comes out on Instagram happens.
You are busy, and it is good busy.
Yes, good busy. I really like it.
Well, Mireille, before I let you go, I want to ask you just one question, and more so for the listeners, to kind of leave them with a good thought.
Mhm.
What would be your advice to someone who they've listened to that your first episode, they've listened to this episode,
Mhm.
they see parallels, and it's like, I want to do, well, I don't want to word it as I want to do like Mireille does,
Mm.
uh, but I want to go down a similar path.
Mhm.
So, what would be your advice for them on that?
I think my advice would actually be what I've picked for my phrase or word of the year, and that is lean in. Um, Lean in and listen to that voice inside of you that's trying to direct you into a place of joy. Oftentimes, I think we we're really scared to leave something that feels really secure, even though we're not totally happy in that setting. And I just want to say, like, you owe it to yourself to find that happiness and to live life to your fullest imagination. So lean in and yeah, get it done.
Lean in and get it done. Great advice.
Yes.
All right, Mireille, before I let you go, is there anything else you want to plug? This is your time to plug everything.
Plug everything. If I haven't plugged it already, of course, I'm
Yeah, if you haven't
currently
plugged it already.
accepting athletes. If you have an autoimmune condition, please come and talk to me. If you don't, I'm still a great coach for you. I've got a lot of stuff coming in the Coach by Mireille business this year, speakers and gear and all these things. So if you want to be a part of that journey, please feel free to reach out to me on Instagram or my website. Go and give the podcast a listen. There's a few episodes up already, and I'm excited to get some new ones out this year too. So that's going to be Running in Public. That's the podcast. It also has its own Instagram if you kind of want to see what's happened so far. But I'm here and I'm ready to help.
All right then. Mireille, again, thank you for coming back onto the show. And I'm looking forward to 2 or 3 years from now.
Yes.
Seeing talking about your book.
Yes.
Again, thank you for coming on.
Thank you so much for having me.
All right. Have a great evening.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the No Gimmicks, Just Sweat podcast. We really appreciate everyone who tunes in each week. If you enjoyed today's show, please support us by subscribing, rating, and reviewing the show wherever you listen to podcasts. And remember to tell your friends about the No Gimmicks, Just Sweat podcast, so we can continue to have awesome conversations with everyday athletes just like you. Until next time, have an amazing week.